Before we get to today's episode, which we know you're going to enjoy, we wanted to take a moment and thank our sponsor for this episode. Good Life Clothing is our go to brand for everyday style. Simple, timeless, and comfortable. We think Good Life Clothing is a must in everybody's wardrobe. Imagine the perfect t shirt, sweatshirt, or tank top for the gym, driving around town, or a night out. Good Life's promise is to give you the perfect t shirt and your new wardrobe staple. Their products are sourced responsibly, which we love, and it's pretty awesome that they incentivize you to recycle their worn goods so they can continue to leave their mark as a brand that has a greater goal than giving you the highest quality products. And to be clear, I personally wear a Good Life shirt every single day, and we know you're going to absolutely look and feel your best when wearing their clothing. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see that Lacy and I are wearing Good Life clothing head to toe in today's episode. Enjoy the show.
I think you should get a neck tattoo. I saw one of my favorite tattoo artists show somebody, and they got tattooed right under their chin, and it was this like arrow, like a bow and arrow. That was pretty cool.
My favorite did not like that.
Well, I mean, your sister typically does what she wants, so I'm not surprised. But good for her.
Okay, where's the sound going when we record it here? It goes into the
It goes in. It goes into the computer.
because it's plugged in right
There's a SD card in there.
there.
Didn't you study photography?
There's no sound in photography.
Well, there's files.
That's not the same. Yes, I understand, but I thought that little thing just told us what we sounded like. I didn't
No,
know
so
it was recorded.
so it records onto the card, and then we take the card and I put it into Final Cut,
Yes.
and then I edit it, make us sound really good, and that's how that works.
So,
Let me try and do this one more thing. It's fine. Everybody here is okay. Right. Finally, get back and doing this again.
sit like that.
Yeah, probably. That's what happens when you buy a couch on Facebook Marketplace. No, I'm just kidding.
Sounds so good.
Hey, new studio coming soon. This is good.
Yeah,
I'm fine with this.
that's why we have. That's why I said let's buy chairs so we can sit across from each other and talk
Right.
instead of a big couch like this.
Well, you can sit over there and I can sit over here.
But then we need two cameras.
That's okay. We're gonna have three. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
We're not recording video on my camera.
We don't have to.
The professional.
There we go. That's probably the best one that we have. Yeah, so we're back today. This is episode 4.
Oh, yeah.
You know, yeah, we appreciate everybody waiting and for episode 4, and we're going back to our Forever Foundation series today. So typically, if you haven't listened to any of our other podcasts and you're just listening to us for the first time, Lacy and I will do podcasts with just the two of us. And right now we're in a series called Forever Foundations. And you can go back to episode 2 and listen to the first part of that. And then the rest of the time we'll bring in guests and just have amazing conversations with our guests, discussing various topics. But mostly them because they're cool fucking people.
Yeah. I think the idea of the guests on the podcast is to introduce the people that we think are really special to our ecosystem of people that don't know who they are. Because, I mean, the best way to get informed or inspired is to look at what other people are doing, have what you want, or have something to teach you.
Yeah, and I mean we think they're really cool, so if we do, hopefully you do a little bit too. And that's I just like having good conversations with great people, right? So that's what that's about. Awesome. So where'd we leave off last time?
I don't remember.
Well, in a nutshell.
Cavan and I, as we both have shit memories.
Yeah.
Usually in a relationship, one person has a good memory and the other person doesn't. That's how you can piece things together. But both of us just blissfully dory our way through lives.
Hey, it's not a bad way to go about it. We're doing okay.
A month goes by and I'm like, oh shit,
it reminds we were watching Ted Lasso last night, and one of the episodes, she's like, "I won't forget you," and he's like, "You might. You
It's
could
gonna
you could you could develop Alzheimer's. That's gonna be the both of us."
literally gonna be like, no, we're not gonna be able to remember that we forgot each other, so we won't be sad because we both won't remember each other.
But what type of amazing movie would that be if like we met each other again for the first time and fell in love all over again?
Somebody get the writers of the Notable Talk
Oh, I got it. I'll
tonight.
take care of it.
Anyway, so the point of the Forever Foundation series, a lot of people when we first started dating, and still to this day, but when we first started dating, there's like an explosion of support for us. And a lot of people were like, oh my God, I want to hear, like, I love when you guys share about your relationship and your past and your stories and how you met each other and how you came together and how you started your relationship. And so there was this like um, couples inspo kind of energy. And so the point behind doing the Forever Foundation series is not that we're couples therapists or that we believe we know everything about having a successful relationship. In fact, we've only been dating for a little over 6 months,
It's the best 6 months.
but we are two people who really knew what we needed to let go of and what we wanted to find in order to achieve ultimate happiness. And we know that those are really hard things to do, to identify what you need and to be willing to let go of things that you thought you needed but are not right for you.
Yeah, and I think another way of looking at that is just like understanding who you are and who you want to be, and then that was really what the first part of this series was about, was like understanding yourself and that you're worth doing whatever it is that you want to do, and then instead of filling that void with someone who doesn't see life as you see it, finding that person and waiting for that person and being yourself to find and value and have that person of support along the way, which is kind of what we want to get into today.
Yeah, it's easy to get out of a long-term relationship and instead of healing yourself, you, like you're saying, feel that loneliness with another person. And instead of focusing on who you want to be in a relationship so that you can be in the relationship that you want, that was kind of what the first one was about, right? And now
Yeah.
we're going to talk about identifying your, I think I originally called it identifying your perfect partner, which is,
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's like, well, how many times do you talk to somebody who's unhappy in their relationship, or it's like goes from relationship to relationship to relationship with, the same type of person? What if we were able to help, not, well, yeah, prevent that, I suppose, and then give one other person the opportunity to realize that there's someone out there for them.
yeah. Yeah, and I think I want to just like say something about the word perfect because there's a lot of like stigma around the word perfect. And I think that when you become self-aware, you've gone on this self-awareness journey, you know who you are and you know what you deserve, alongside identifying the kind of partner you want to be in a relationship with, you can find the perfect person for you. Not
Yeah,
the perfect person as a person, like in general, existing as a human being, but the perfect partner for you, your lifestyle, your goals, your expectations, what you want to do, whether that's to travel or stay home all the time, or someone that works out in the gym or someone that goes on hikes. Like those are all the kinds of things that are incredibly important that you don't really think about when you're first dating and you get caught up in like this is new and exciting and you'll kind of say yes to anything the other person wants to do because you want to impress them or get along with them or like just have a good time. But then when the newness dust settles and you're in this relationship with someone, and like for us we've moved in together, so we're quite literally together all the time. It's like, do you actually enjoy spending all your time with that person? Do you have the same things in common? Do you have the same aspirations? Do you have the same hobbies? In your business especially, how often do you run into people that want to work, or our clients in general, and they're like, oh yeah, it's just like been a struggle because my spouse or partner, like, they don't work out and they don't understand why it's important to me, and like it takes up so much of my time and then I feel guilty about it. Like that happens all the time. I used to go through that with my personal training clients too.
Yeah, I mean, for my clients, it happens all the time, and I'll get to more of that in a little bit. But just like piggybacking off of what you said, right? Once we really understood who we were through how life happened, like I was not looking for a long-term relationship. However, just through communication, and you alluded to it, but my big three when it comes to a relationship of any sort, well, not of any sort, of like the relationship that you want to be in, right? A lot of us base everything off of lifestyle. Like, can we go do to this event together? Do we like working out? Do we enjoy the same music? Do we like the same food? Right? Lifestyle is the easiest thing to fall into to feel that flame.
Yeah.
However, what I believe that people push to the side early on and then comes back to bite them in the ass later on is the vision and the values that people have, right? So while you're making all that noise over
Sorry.
there,
My mic is like really loud
yeah,
because I'm
uh,
sitting far away.
yeah. So what I mean by that is when it comes to vision, who do you see yourself becoming? Where does life take you? And is that other person willing to ride or die with you
Yeah.
along the way? In our case, it was very apparent early on that we didn't want to live this traditional life, and that is so inspiring for me, going into this, because like there's so much that I want to do,
Yeah.
and you want to travel, you want to grow your businesses, you want to fill your soul with your passion projects, and like I want you to do that 10 times over, right? And then what do we value, right? And like this can go into politics, finances, what type of family do you want to raise, right? Like how do you talk to people, do you have manners, do you not have manners, like little things that we could push to the side early on because our lifestyles are there, and it's so like entertaining to do all these things together, and the sex is great or whatever it is, and then you know are you okay, like
At the end of the day, but I just think like, you get into a relationship or whatever. I mean, you and I are both in long-term relationships for a long time, but I hear other people complain about these things. And then I thought about them when I became single, but like, it's like, oh yeah, the sound of him chewing annoys me. It's like those things. Like, that's like not really something you can correct, but it becomes those small things, like you were saying. Does the person hold the door open for you or other people? Like, do they tip like servers appropriately? Do they say hi and make eye contact with people? Like, are those things important to you? Would you do them? And of course, you want your partner to do them too because you're a representation of each other.
yeah, and if you don't and you're both assholes, then like that's good for you, like if you found your perfect partner.
Good job.
Be a good person.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when it comes to, my clients, for instance, I do work with, plenty of people. We have thousands of people that we help, and it is a regular occurrence where many of them are seeing these improvements in their life and they're understanding more of who they want to be. However, they don't have that endless support that they would inside of the Hidden Summit group at home within their four walls. So they feel like a fraud.
I love the thing that's people are like, their spouse or whatever will say that you changed. You're not the person I
Right. Well, I mean, there's a lot. We can do that in another call. I think we have someone that we can bring in and talk to about
married.
that.
But that's the thing I think that happens. Like that's it. I guess what I'm getting at is like we were talking to go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish and then I'll piggyback off of
No,
what
no,
you
it's
were
fine.
saying.
It was just more along the lines of, well, when they do start to see this improvement in their life and they want to celebrate it with their partner, their loved one, and they don't get it right away, it comes from a number of different places, right? Like maybe their partner's not where they want to be and they have pride or ego that
Yeah,
doesn't let them get there. However, right, like communication is what I was going to get to,
yeah,
right? How often, and this could happen before they even commit, right? They want to change, they want to see these things happen, but they're afraid that they won't get the approval from this person they decided to spend their life with.
yeah.
But I believe, coming from a place of curiosity and asking, like, do you don't you want me to be the best version of myself? Because I don't particularly feel that way right now. Like, will you support me? Right? Because they don't need the approval, but they would appreciate the support. And oftentimes that doesn't happen. So if you're in a relationship right now and you feel like you guys are on different pages of the same book and you're trying to get back on the same page, like have a meaningful conversation and come from a place of curiosity. I always tell my clients to act, and my coaches and my staff to act like a child, because no one gets mad at a kid when they ask a dumb question. They're yeah, why? um,
I think oftentimes people don't ask that question enough in their relationship. They just kind of are like, I guess it's more to keep from confrontation or keep from uncomfortable conversations. People won't get inquisitive and curious. They're just kind of like, I'm not even gonna, pick your battles or like sweep it under the rug and like pretend it doesn't exist. We'll go on and not have a conversation about it and it's fine. I'll just suffer in silence or whatever it is. Especially um, partners that are mothers, they go through that the most too, right? They kind of put their needs and their desires like on the back burner. And they're like, I got too many other things I gotta fucking deal with. I can't sit down and have this conversation too that's gonna make me feel guilty and upset you and blah blah blah. And it's like, I think oftentimes that's the big lapse too when we're talking about. I mean, knowing your partner's communication style is huge. And that was something when I was thinking about. If I'm gonna date someone seriously, that is important to me. Like that was on my list of things that were important. Like, can I directly communicate with this person without hurting their feelings? Because that's how I communicate. Can they equally be as direct back with me and be able to have a passionate, heated conversation without anyone walking away with their feelings hurt? Because I, for so long, doled myself down and I was like, I'm not gonna get doing that anymore. Like, I'm not gonna try to communicate and pretend to be someone I'm not to
yeah,
appease you.
yeah, one of the best things, pieces of advice I ever heard was like never leave an argument angry, right? Because like you and I can butt heads and like talk on different topics, but
Sure.
I never go to bed at night angry. I never walk away angry. Like
Yeah.
we're passionate people and we're very direct fucking people. So like we will have very direct conversations. And I find a lot of the time people will leave and hold on to that and then they'll like allow it to spill into other parts of their day, which can snowball in a number of different directions. But what we're trying to do, like if you have like we're gonna talk about two things today, like finding your perfect partner, and then if you have someone who you felt like was your perfect partner, like what can we do to make sure that you guys can get on the same page. So communication is key, coming from a place of curiosity, asking questions, never leave that conversation angry. And those are three ways where it's worked for us in the past, and hopefully it could work for you the same way.
I think it comes down to self-awareness again too, and like getting understanding, like I mentioned, communication style. Like it's not like direct versus indirect or confrontational versus non-confrontational, like most people think it to be. Like there are people who make decisions and communicate from their heart. There are people who make decisions and communicate from their brain. And then there are people who make decisions and communicate from just how they feel, like externally, like their gut, essentially. And that's kind of how we are. We're a little more logical, analytical. We use our brain, but typically it's like in our core, if it feels a particular way, then that's how we do it.
Yeah, personally, I know that I will emote for a moment and then like logic takes over. I'm like, oh wait, we're fucking
Sure.
fine. Like and that's just going for my gut.
Important to know about yourself because you can go into a conversation communicating with your partner and be like, okay, I want to talk about something uncomfortable and challenging. I need you to know, like, I'm in my head about it, or I'm feeling sick to my stomach, or I'm breaking my heart right now, or whatever it is. Like, but I want to have the conversation with you about it, and I'm probably going to get emotional, or my logic's going to kick in, or whatever it is. Being able to, like, preface that type of feeling or emotion or however it is that you're having, like presenting it along with the conversation versus just going in and like word vomiting all over and then, bursting into tears and yelling at each other. Like, I think we don't give enough credit to understanding how you communicate, understanding how your partner communicates, and being able to sit down and say, okay, here's the preface, and then here comes the conversation.
And then on the other side, if you're on the back end of that and someone comes in like guns blazing,
Yeah.
just stop for a second.
Yeah.
Don't respond emotionally right away. Ask a question, be like, hey, where are you coming from?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? for a really simple example there.
Sure. So let's go back to like identifying
Yeah.
your
So I think,
person you wanna be with.
yeah, I think there's a couple things that come to mind. Like a obviously, or maybe it's not obviously, but knowing who you are and what it is that you want in life, your lifestyle, your visions, your values. Who is it that you are working on becoming and where is that going is huge. And then I think it's really, we can, you know the names of them better than I do, but like we took some quick applicable tests,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
But I think that's really cool. And it's a great way for people to understand like how they're appreciated, how their partner's appreciated, what they might think they're doing for their partner for before it starts, when it's first starting, if you are able to do that in the first place, or let's say like flash forward 10, 15 years, like do you understand this if this is the perfect person for you and are they doing and reciprocating that favor and same. So what is that the love languages test?
So there's a love languages test, and whether you think social sciences are woo-woo or not, if you don't know yourself and what you want, and you're having trouble getting along with your partner, who cares how fucking woo-woo it is? Just do it if it helps you get on a better page. You don't have to live and die by it. But if you don't understand yourself and you don't understand, if you're like, oh God, I just hate when my partner wants to hug me all the time, blah blah blah. Like maybe physical touch isn't your love language. And if you knew that about yourself, you'd be able to tell your partner, I don't prioritize this as a way that I receive love. I understand you appreciate it. Can we figure out a way to be on a middle ground about it?
Yeah, and personally, like I don't go around like just preaching love languages all the time, but I know some people that do,
Sure.
right? Which is great. However, for me, it was a really good eye opener to see,
Cool.
right, to see how, or more along the lines of how, I mean, I'll talk about my ex for a second, like how like what she needed in her life was not something that I was aware of to the extent that I could have been aware of, and in the same breath I was not the person to do that
Yeah.
because it didn't align with who I was and what I could give, which was a very good indicator, albeit 10 years later.
That
Uh,
you mismatched.
correct.
Yeah.
Could have been avoided if I was aware, right?
And that's something I wanted to touch on today too, and maybe we'll have time and remind me later because I think I'll forget. But when I get into my former marriage, my relationship, I was 21 years old. I had no fucking clue who I was or what I wanted. And nobody had a conversation with me about it. And so part of this today, the discussion I thought would be important to touch on would be if you are someone listening and you have kids that are teenagers or of dating age, being able to take some tools and advice maybe that you didn't have when you got into a relationship, some tactical tools that we have utilized to make our lives easier in our relationship, and have a conversation with your kids about the importance of knowing themselves and understanding other people and being able to communicate with other people so that when they do get into these relationships, because okay, teenage relationships are volatile. Those things kind of explode the sun shining on it. Like it's I just remember like my relationship when I was 19 and then 21. I'm just like, what was I doing? And why was nobody talking to me about what a healthy relationship looks like?
And I mean, likewise for me as well. Like there was just this, it was all passion and high school drama,
Yeah.
and then even in college things get so heated, and I always say like
So young and dumb and running
well,
around and
yeah,
having fun
I
and you're
mean,
not focused on what 10 years from now looks like.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure that, my parents did their best to try and explain that to me, like, but like them not being as self-aware, they probably weren't able to
My parents
articulate.
were not self-aware and they were not in happy relationships. So they are not the people I want
Yeah.
advice from.
Plus, I knew everything that there could be known between 18 and fucking 26 years old. So,
What
like,
possibly
what
were
could
you
you teach me?
doing?
um,
I think that's part of it, but these tools are helpful. And if you've never identified them for yourself, they can be a super helpful tool for you and then also to help your kids too. So, number one, we did the love languages test, which we scored exactly the same on all five love languages, 1 to 5.
pretty amazing.
And then we are actually the same Enneagram number as well, with a slight variation in our wing number, which actually makes a lot of difference. The more I see us communicate and have conversations and do things in life, it's interesting how similar we are, but we have a slight variation, and not just our businesses are different, things like that too. But
Yeah, so
we
I'm
also, but we also do a sexual personality
yeah,
test.
I was gonna get to that.
Oh my
I
God, go
was
ahead.
gonna get to that, but I would like to say, like, I can admit that, I'm dating myself and you're dating yourself.
Yeah, and the thing that it's so funny about it is like, I with my ex, it was opposites attract. You guys are so good for each other because like he's calm and chill and you're not, and so that grounds you, and like you're a dreamer and you're, inspirational, and he's not really self-motivated, so you can help him with that. And it's like, no,
It's like signing up for a job at that point.
yeah, oh no. At this point, I like in my life now, like what? No, I don't want someone completely opposite from me. How would we ever get on the same page about anything? How?
We wouldn't.
We wouldn't.
No. And I mean, even if, I mean, I think there, I mean, we're not saying that relationships don't take work, right? They obviously do.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. And even to your point, to you being an 8 week 7 and myself an 8 week 9, right? Like there's a lot of balance there
Mhm.
in communication and understanding that needs to happen. And
Yeah,
that comes through work,
yeah,
right? So, or if you, and also again, like if you find that you are in a relationship where opposites attract, again, knowing yourself and knowing that person, it could work for you. We're not
it
saying that,
potentially, yeah,
right?
if
We're not
that's what
saying
you
that
want.
it won't,
Totally.
right? But for us, like having this extreme, I'll call it an extremist lifestyle
Yeah, sure.
just of entrepreneurship and travel and, just going and living like the most fulfilled life that we can. That is who we are. And that works much better when you have someone supporting you along the
Yeah,
way, right? So, again, I think the love languages test, like knowing the Enneagram, huge. The love languages test, also a really good tool, free tool. And then I don't even, you just said, hey, fill this out. I don't even know what it is called.
okay. So I follow this account on Instagram, Vanessa and Xander, and she is actually a licensed sex therapist. And her husband, he's not a therapist, but that's like their shtick, a sex therapist and her husband. And so they create really cute content on social media, and they kind of blew up during COVID, when people were having trouble like connecting and feeling gross and weird, and they were like kind of put a lot of content out there. And so they do some really funny stuff, but God, their content's so informative. But they have a sex love languages or sexual personality test that they created. And so you go in and take it. It's just a little quiz. And basically, it's like a couple of different variations. Like, are you dirty? Like, are you
Yeah.
intimate?
What,
Like,
what were they? We had like one that
let me see if I can
ex
get my email.
almost like spiritual,
Yeah.
exploratory,
Yeah.
uh,
Um,
intimate, and um,
yeah. Yeah. I think you're remembering it better than I am.
and then another one. Anyway, so Lacey said, "Take this," and I was like, "Sure, whatever. We'll see what's going on inside the bedroom and wherever else it happens." Um, and we got the same thing on that too.
I can't
So
find it right now, but I will go to
we'll put it.
Instagram.
Yeah,
I'll dig up a
we'll
link.
put a link and we'll post it on Instagram.
But yeah, so we ended up with the same um sex personality type, which actually is kind of interesting, and like I haven't spent a ton of time thinking about it, but I do think that it has made a little bit of a difference. Like when we get intimate, when we have sex, I'm like, oh, now I know like that he wants kind of the same things that I want. And if you have like some shame or like guilt, like I don't particularly, but like I know a lot of people do, you carry around this shame or guilt around asking for what you want in the bedroom, or like you just kind of make assumptions and go along with like whichever partner initiates, and like it's hard to communicate intimately, like especially if you're in a long-term relationship and fucking tired at the end of the day, and like you just put your kids to bed, and then really the last thing you want to do is have sex, but you know that you need to, like, for your relationship. Being able to then just kind of have a better insight into what kind of lover your partner is can help you just without having to ask awkward questions, connect with them.
Yeah, and I think like after that's taken, it opens the door to have an easier conversation about it,
It gives you a
right?
foot in the door without you having to be like, hey, can I ask you some questions?
Right.
Thanks
Um,
for sex. Did you hate it?
hopefully you're not asking that. Uh, hopefully. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think like these are really great ways to understand, like, A, if you're not with your perfect partner, to who they might be and what it is you're looking for when you,
Spend time actually getting to know these things about your current partner.
right.
Like if
That
you're
was,
relaxing, is that where you're going?
yeah, that was number two,
Go ahead.
right? Because we're kind of talking about both.
Okay.
Like if you don't have them,
Yeah.
like, are they out there? Yes, they're out there. What could you do to know more about yourself? And then when you go, like, see who it is that matches with you.
To that part, I want to talk, and maybe you didn't do anything, but I want to share that I was single for like 2 years after my like separation from my ex-husband, and then my legal divorce came a little bit later. But my actual separation, now I'm single, to meeting and dating Cavan was a little over 2 years, and I guess it was like 2 years, yeah. And I, at one point, was going on dates through dating apps, or, had gone on some dates with people that were friends previously. And I was just really like striking out, but I was also really focused on just dating and not really like a partner. And I wasn't trying to like, like date as many people as possible. I was just like, I haven't dated in a long time, and like, let's just date and see what happens. Like, go on dates and just have conversations. And what I realized is I was having so much trouble connecting with people, with the guys that I was going on dates with, because I wasn't focusing on what I wanted in a partner. I was focusing on the act of dating. And so and I mean, I was doing a lot of self-awareness work, and obviously, like, when I realized what I wanted was the pivotal, or kind of like the pinnacle moment when I felt very self-aware, and like I had re-identified myself, especially post very long-term relationship. But I actually sat down and was like, you know what, fuck it, I am actually gonna make a list. Like, I'm gonna, at first I was kind of like, I need to make a list, like joking around, and I was like, no, I've actually made a list of like all the things I wanted in a partner. And I broke it down into everything from like physical appearance all the way down to how would this person support me if I was taking on a really big project, or if I wanted to travel X, Y, and Z somewhere for an extended period of time, or if I won an award through work, or if I had a income goal in business, how would this person show up for me? Like, down to those kinds of things, because those became incredibly important to me. Those were things that I lacked in my last relationship, and so all of those things are really incredibly important. And so I think that it's like kind of silly and cliche, but I do think it's an incredibly like kind of cathartic but also like important practice for you to understand when you start dating. Like, you just kind of have like a blueprint for who you're looking for, and it will save you a lot of grief and really bad second dates if you go on a date with someone and you realize they're not. Not that you shouldn't vary from the list if you meet someone great, but like, not having any kind of design or idea at all can be a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, it goes right back into understanding what it is that you desire. So, yes, I'm saying be selfish at first to be selfless with this person that you want to be with. Um, and then, no, I didn't do that per se.
Yeah.
However,
Week.
well, no, well, I mean, so yes, but for 2 years,
Sure.
I built a business,
Yeah.
right? I built a six-figure business, right? In 2 years, and
Realized what you
and
didn't want.
right, exactly. So it was like, for the last 2 years of my relationship, like there was no physical touch or intimacy or sex, and it was us trying to hold the pieces together because it was the right thing to do.
Sure.
However, in becoming self-aware of what I was passionate about and what I did want, and like the COVID opened up for me the ability to see like anything that I want is possible. Like I didn't have to be tied down to New York. I didn't have to, work a regular job that could help endless amounts of people. I can, build my own team. And like what I wanted was someone who wanted to ride with me, right? Someone who was like, hey, I want to come along for the ride
Yeah.
and see what
What
happens.
say to you first time you did
And which part?
about following you somewhere?
Ride or die?
we were like, yeah, I'm gonna travel a lot and like I'm really busy and I like go places for work and blah 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 and this and that. It's written on our books.
To that one? Okay. I mean, oh, that's right. Because in my head, I said it first, but you said it. Yeah, you did. We went back and looked at these text messages, but you said to the moon and back. Yeah,
If you want to go to the moon for a trip and harvest moon rocks, I'd go with you.
yeah. And then we got these tattoos too. Remember that? That's right. It's adorable.
Yeah, it's adorable and silly, but like there should be an extreme amount of dedication between you and your partner to your goals. Like not just who you are now, but who you want to be in the future too.
Right. And that doesn't have to be going to the moon to harvest rocks. It could be you want to have this amazing family,
Sure.
right? You want to support your local town and be really present within your community. It could be, you want to have the best careers that you could possibly have. Right? Ours is different. And like, maybe we will go to the moon one day. Who knows? But
SpaceX is not that far away from us.
I'll just ping Elon and we'll figure it out. Um, but I think and going back to what you were saying, like, no, like I didn't have to write down a list. I just knew what I wanted. And if that person would support me, I came out swinging when I started talking to you.
Yeah.
I was like, this is where I'm at. This is what I do. And then you gave it to me like right back.
Yeah, I was
So,
I feel like I did the same thing.
mhm. And
I tried to convince him to join some dating apps before he actually agreed to date me.
yeah, I think we spoke about that on the last one too. We won't talk about dating apps too much. But like, no, I had dated, 10 years earlier. I was a different person, but again, like to me, that was a distraction
Sure.
because of what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I wanted to grow my business and help my team and help our clients. And, I said, I was like, obviously, like once people start to see that I was single, like people started talking to me more, right? However, like can tell, like, you scroll back. Um, but I was very distant in all of those
Sure.
conversations except for ours
Yeah.
because of how you were as a human being and what were the way you communicated was like it just like aligned with this perfect harmony of like how I communicated. Um, and like that may not happen, and that doesn't mean it's a bad relationship or it's not meant to be, because some things like they might not be opening up the way they can yet, and they haven't found themselves or whatever. But for us, it just clicked,
Yeah.
right? And I do believe like the law of attraction is real. So like if you see it, like in my goal, like my mind goals, I want someone to stand by my side when I go on this journey, not just like in my shadow, but beside me, doing what they do and working with me together. And we're well on our way to making that happen.
Yeah, for sure. I think like, to your point, it takes some people a lot longer. We're Enneagram 8s to bring that back in, and we just happen to be incredibly decisive people by
Yeah.
nature. Not everybody is as decisive as other people. And so that's where that, communication tactics and things come back in and become incredibly important because if you are, let's say, for example, let's say I was an S, and sometimes I'm not super decisive, but
Yeah. What are we eating later? Just kidding.
we have Mary's ground beef and veggie pasta.
Frozen fruit.
Frozen fruit. So, if you were like, hey, this is my goal and this is what I want to achieve, if I was honest and transparent with you that I wasn't quite there yet, but I wanted to support you in that way, I didn't have to be exactly on the same level as you at the same time. But if you told me that, I would have to be transparent and honest with you and say, like, look, I love that and that sounds so exciting, but like I'm not quite there yet. And that doesn't mean that we couldn't have figured it out and like been in a solid relationship and like worked on it. But I think it all just comes back to the honesty and transparency, whether you're getting into a new relationship or you're in an established relationship. So many arguments and hurt feelings and things like that can be avoided by putting transparency first.
Yeah, and I also think patience and time helped as we, which you're working on from day one.
Day one.
But you know, we didn't see one another
For a long
for
time.
a very long time
Yeah.
in person, and like it's very modern,
We hung out for a week over like 3 month time period before we moved in together.
right? And then we were apart for another month, and then we moved in together.
Yeah.
And that might sound crazy to a lot of you, but like the conversations that we had, not just on text, but all these FaceTime dates
We space him every night.
every night. And we, whether we were talking or just, you know, being together, and which might sound strange also, but like it was somewhere I wanted to be. It was somebody I wanted to share my day with. It was someone I knew that
Both
I
late
would
at night
listen
FaceTiming.
and want to listen. Now we just stay up way too late anyway. Old habits die hard. Um, but not just what I wanted, but I knew I wanted to hear what you did and how it was going and what was happening in your life. And like when you can look forward to that from the other person, like that's another sign that it's probably where you want to be.
Yeah.
So,
I want to piggyback off of that too. Like, I know that, we're still in the beginning of our relationships and things are still exciting and new and stuff. And so, for anyone listening saying, oh, I've only been dating for 6 months, give it 5 years.
yeah, well, on the episode 6 years from now,
Yeah.
you guys can chime in and
But I think
talk
that
about that.
the key point to point out is like persistency and like staying involved. If you love the way this feels right now, then you do whatever it takes to hang on to it, right? And that's where I think a lot of people lapse too, is they give up too soon. And it's like agreed. Like I want to hear like all about the conversations you have with your clients and like what's going on with the team and how you guys are evolving and how your workout went and all of that kind of stuff. But I do know that life will get busier, and as our businesses grow, we will get busier. As we travel more, we will probably spend a little less time together if we have to go separate places at separate times. But remembering the things that started your relationship with such excitement and passion, knowing that those weren't on accident, they were because you were with the person that you want to share those things with. Remembering to build habits in the beginning when it's exciting and fun that will carry you through 5, 10, 15, 50 years from now, um, is again something that needs to be on the list when you're looking for the partner that you want to be with long term. That has to be valuable and important to them too.
Absolutely. And I know we can probably deep dive and transition into what happens after that, but I want to save that for the next
Sure.
episode. And like continue, how do you continue to feel that, let that electricity, burn a very long time,
Sure.
right? So it's not just a firework, it's a candle that burns really slow,
Yeah.
as we've heard before too. And that's really where we want to go next. Um, so I think, as you look to identify your perfect partner, or you felt like you had your perfect partner, but your fire's fading, to stick with the analogy. Remember to discuss and communicate your vision, your values, and then see how you can improve your lifestyle. I think there are many ways to do that, whether,
Let's say you can't hit the restart button.
right,
Like there's no rules. If you are in a relationship and you're struggling, and honestly, actually, that's what I did with my ex-husband, or what we tried to do. We were like, all right, we're unhappy. Let's hit the reset button. Let's start over. Like, let's do a trial separation. Let's go on date nights. Let's sit down once a week and do a weekly check in, share our goals together, our expectations. We did all that shit and it didn't work. It didn't help. So we came to the conclusion, ultimately to end our relationship. But God, I thought those were so, like, I was like, fuck, we should have been doing this all along. Like, this has really brought us a lot closer and helped us kind of see, like, the other person. Like, kind of, and we did spend a lot of time together because he traveled for work and whatnot. And I worked late hours at the gym. So it was hard to get together and communicate. But I know that there are lots of people that listen to us that have multiple jobs or multiple kids or a lot of shit going on too. And so my encouragement to you would be to, just sit down with your partner and say, hey, can we just start over? Like let's like zoom out and let's figure out like where our problems started and how our communications lapsed and what is causing us the most grief and how do we fucking get rid of it and create a new habit.
Yeah, I mean, there's no rules,
There,
right? So, like anything, if you're in that position,
you make
right, or you were in that position and you're worried to do it again, because we know oftentimes if we go and date someone new, just a similar version of the past person that we were with. Realize that if you're going to hit the reset button, there are no rules. So, whatever you have done to this point, like you can rewrite the script however you want to. And that, when you go about that conversation that way, it brings some more light to the conversation. So, like, you and your partner can then just write down exactly what you want, exactly what you don't want for one another. And then you can figure out how to make those wants happen. And I'll even give you another one. You could write down what you love. And then this is a tough one, but write down what you hate or don't like or truly dislike or disappointed in the other partner. Remember, we're being open and honest here. And when you can do that, literally cross those off the page and then change it to the opposite so you can see if you and your partner are willing to move in a direction where those things can change. And if you are,
yeah,
you're probably going to end up in a better place. And if you're not, I think you have your answer as well,
sure.
regardless of where you are, regardless of what your values are, what you believe in. Like if you are unhappy at the end of the day, and I mean you as in you and your partner, this is just my opinion here. Then if you guys can't get on the same page about where it is you want to go, the difference is like, does the pain of where you are, is it greater than, you know,
The
or
alternative.
the
Yeah,
alternative,
sure.
right? Like, are you willing to suffer, or are you going to rip off the
Yeah,
band-aid? And that's like the ripping off the band-aid is the conversation, then the work, then the surgery begins,
sure.
right? That's how we move forward.
That conversation, a lot of women reached out to me after I went public with my divorce, and they asked me questions about like, how did you know? What did you do? I'm scared of X, Y, and Z, blah blah blah, whatever. And I went through that same thought process with them, and that was ultimately what led me to my decision to say like this isn't working. I was like, okay, if you sit down and you think about your dream life and your theoretical, dream partnership, are you willing to put in the work? And like, is the work and the effort that takes you to get there, does that cause you more fear and more anxiety than staying in the relationship where it's at right now? Or the other ultimate goal, the end side of it too, is like, if that relationship ends, are you in a better place mentally and emotionally than you are in the relationship you're in now? There's kind of like three variations, right? Like you're willing to do the work and go through the discomfort and the, shit that it's going to bring up and whatever it is, or you stay exactly where you're at, which you already don't like, or you get divorced and now you're single and you're figuring it out on your own, and that kind of sucks too. Like, which one sucks the least?
Yeah, choose your hard is the way I would
Yeah, sure,
like
absolutely.
put that out there. It's all going to be challenging, right? It doesn't like have to be hard forever, but which one are you willing to sit with, and which one brings you the best life for you, and in this case, your partner.
I was so worried about what my life was going to be like if I wasn't married to this person I had been with for 11 years. I was like, how am I going to pay my bills? Like, because I mean, he made more money than I did at this time. So, like, in terms of finances, like, you know, that was a big scary thing. How do I, tell my family and friends that I'm a fucking failure? How do I tell them that like this relationship failed and they've invested all this time, effort, and energy into my relationship, and not to tell them that it doesn't exist anymore? There's so many, and like I'm not really a person that's ever ridden by like guilt or shame, but that kind of stuff can really dig up some serious emotions that you
Well,
didn't know were there.
I mean, it sounds like you're worried about the circumstances first, like can't pay your bills. What am I gonna do?
I moved in
Then
with my grandma.
and
That's what I
uh,
did.
well, and then you're worried about what other people will think.
Yeah. Nobody gave a
And
shit.
then it seemed like the last thing, and maybe if this was for a moment, I'm sure you figured it out rather quickly, was then you were worried about like you.
Yeah,
But if we just start internally
sure.
and think like, well, what do I need for me
Yeah,
to be able to do those
yeah,
things? No problems, only solutions. Like
yeah.
I'm unhappy here. And I
Mhm.
know it's so easy to say, it's harder to do, yes. But again, if it wasn't hard, then like you'd be happy
Yeah,
and you'd be
sure.
okay in that
Yeah,
relationship.
yeah. So you can do a couple of things. You can tell your partner, this is what I need to be happy, and I don't have it currently. And they can tell you, I'm willing to give that to you, or they can tell you to fuck off. And then either way, you have your answer and you're going to get what you want.
Right. And I would say to your point before is like schedule those check-ins, those meetings, and then if it doesn't go that way, you can always see a therapist.
Yeah.
Like we are not therapists. Let me repeat that. Like we're not giving advice where that's professional advice. Which yes, um, but you can seek help. Right, there are people that are brilliant at what they do to help you through that, and you will see rather quickly through those professional sessions. It's no dig and drop your fucking pride at the door. Like go get help if you need help, or just you know what? Well, I don't want to say just deal with it because I want to see whoever is going through that see the success for their life that they need to, that they want to see. But maybe you start with just checking in weekly with at home.
Something about it, you're getting exactly what you deserve.
Right. Yeah. So. So yeah, I mean, with all this, like finding your perfect partner, obviously not an easy task, but we're just trying to give you some tools so you can figure out, how do I find that person that will, support me along the way? How do I, take what I used to feel and bring that back with the person that I have been with for however long? And remember just continuing to work on it. So whether you do the tests or ask the questions, have the hard conversations, see a professional, right? This is just one step on the way to living that fulfilled life and just truly being fucking unbelievably happy no matter what.
Like humans are meant to evolve. Like we're not meant to stay the same person from age 15 to age 85. Like we're gonna change in phase based on how life changes in phases. And I think it's really important that if you have tactical tools and knowledge, like what we've been talking about, that when your world or your life phases or changes, you can reconnect and re-identify who you are, who your partner is, gather up the things that are important to you both, write down your values again, write down what you want to achieve X, Y, and Z years into the future. And then you guys are kind of going for the same goals as a team. Whether you're in a new relationship thinking about this or whether you're in an established relationship, it's really important to remember that like change is the constant always.
Absolutely. So I feel, that's a lot for today.
Yeah,
A little,
that's good.
it's a lot of info, and we'll be back next time. I think we'll dive into our pillars of love next time, and then that'll be a whole episode by itself.
We'll talk about some, maybe we'll be a little more tactical
Yeah, I think we can.
episode and a little less just talking.
Yeah, I love it. Well, until then, thanks for listening. See you.